Welcome to CosmoFactory, a podcast by Cosmoprof Worldwide Bologna, where we explore the entire cosmetics, personal care, and fragrance industry supply chain. I'm your host, Deanna Utrusky, and here at CosmoFactory, we look beyond the trends to discover the ideas, initiatives, and innovations that are truly advancing beauty. Let's get started. This episode is about hair care and hair treatment, but not the usual sort. It's about developing hair products that can protect against UV and pollution damage. It's about choosing raw materials, about working in-house and with specialized labs to test and validate these new, novel hair care benefits. And it's about the origin of the ideas that become hair care innovations. Today, my guests on the CosmoFactory podcast are Claudia Silva, R&D Director at Colep, and Paola Meroni, that same company's head of marketing. Welcome to you both.
Thank you for having us here, Diana. It's a pleasure.
Very happy to be here.
Yes, I'm glad to speak with you both. Thank you so much. Paola, let's start at the beginning, if you don't mind. Will you tell us a bit about where the idea to create UV and pollution protection hair products comes from?
But Colep, we as a marketing team, we really work hand in hand with R&D. At the beginning of everything, there is a really mapping the market and understanding what are the market needs and try to understand where the market is going, especially, for example, for the hair care and the pollution hair care. We are seeing the market growing. Proven by number. We are seeing how the growing it's led to a compound annual growth of 10% for the hair care market, and especially in the hair pollution market around 7%. And the trigger are really the end consumer, and the consumer that are increasingly having a concern on hair well-being and their health, and how there is a recognizable factor that environmental is impacting their well-being and health, especially on the hair care. Urban aggressors, sun damage, pollution, mineral from water supply, or they are combining in affecting scalp and hair care. So that is the idea and the trigger that help us to drive our innovation in the hair care. So there is also big potential for brands in this area, in this market.
Yeah, no, certainly. That makes very good sense. I'm just thinking from my work, there are so many, market trends or consumer demands, if you will, to pay attention to in our industry. Can you say a little bit more about what might help you decide to focus on something like UV and pollution rather than maybe, longevity in hair care or neurocosmetics for scalp care, other things we see going on?
But we are seeing, for example, when we start every year, we create what are our macro trends. And one of our macro trends was called powering the persona. Mm-hmm. So consumers are really demanding, and they are demanding science-backed cosmetic. With the fact that the beauty bar is rising, consumers are really looking into beauty to find a solution for some very specific and vertical needs. And consequently, beauty has the, allow me to say, duty to provide this kind of solution. So we are looking here to hyper-targeted solution to really address the needs. And that's the rationale that he is behind. So that's the reason why we are looking into hard water to tackling the hard waters concern, as well as anti-pollution and sun damage, and how these factors are really have an impact on the scalp and then on the hair. How can create on scalp dryness or dandruff, or in some really more serious case, even triggering some eczema issue, or as well like on the length of the hair, how this it's really thinning the hair, create some breakage, hair loss, and even the aging of the hair.
No, that's super cool. I love how carefully you're thinking about this category. That's very interesting. And you mentioned, that you do work closely with R&D. I'm wondering at the start of a project like this, when you're decided to focus on UV and pollution in particular, what sort of guidelines do you hand off to Claudia and her team? How do you set the parameters for something like this?
But in our brief is really quite detailed, and we creating it together with Claudia. For sure, there is a part that is dedicated to the sensoriality, because this is a must-have nowadays for the consumer, because they need to really engage in a pleasant way to the product itself. And then there is a proper aiming to final claim.
Yep.
Heat protection to X percentage of, for example, or temperature, sun damage, we can really claim the removal of the hard water during the wash. So a really very specific claim that we analyze with Claudia, the feasibility or doability in the development phase. Claudia has an amazing, and then I will hand it over to her, but she has an amazing lab with inside equipment that are really dedicated to measuring it during the development phase. So we are lucky enough to constantly having this kind of touch base during the development. It's not only about texture. It's not only about claim a nice active ingredient. It's really about substantiation. And this is our way to approach innovation.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's fantastic. So yeah, let's do get into it, Claudia. How do you start your part of the project?
So, as always, we always need to understand very well, in this case, the hair biology. So we really are developing products that can make a difference. We don't want to have products just because we have nice claims and there is the trend in the market. We want very effective products that are also sustainable. So first we need to start to understand what is the problem that we want to solve. In this case, what is the kind of damage that all these external factors can induce in the hair, and in how many different ways we can tackle them, because only with an holistic approach you can really make a difference. There is a particularity of hair, because if you that makes it even more urgent to prevent damage, because the hair strands itself, they cannot regenerate. They are not living cells that can regenerate like the others. Additionally, in skin, you have a renewal of less than one month. In hair, you can have the same fiber for 3-4 years. So it's really important that you start by preventing, and also you can have some raw materials to recover and to help to reduce the already existing damage. And we normally work in like in collections, so we don't develop only one product. So normally there is a combination of products that all together are stronger to reach the benefits that we are aiming to. For example, in anti-pollution, we need to start by the shampoo, okay? Because if you have particles adhering to the surface of your scalp or of your hair, you need to make sure that you are able to remove them while you clean your hair, so they are not there to damage. Of course, then you also want to have actives to prevent the adherence of these anti-pollution particles or dust, because in this case, it's less likely that they are there causing the effects that the bad effects, the carbonylation of proteins, the oxidation of lipids that then produce the brittle look, the loss of strength in the hair, the loss of shine. Then you move to a good conditioner, because then you need to have very good emollients to prevent or to repair part of the shine, and also the hair becomes more with a higher attraction when it's damaged, so to recover that part. And then of course leave-in products that stay enough time on the hair strand and on the hair scalp to prevent the actions of the radicals that are generating in combination of the pollution with UV filters. So we always try to have all these products combined together. So you try to tackle cease cleaning until preventing, until recovering from damage. So in the end, you really see a benefit. Otherwise, only with the one product, sometimes it's very often we don't achieve the efficacy that we want. So that's why we work by collections, and all of them, they have a very specific aim, and this is the way we work.
Excellent. Yes, this collections approach makes very good sense. Can you say more about how you choose raw materials? Are you looking at the library of materials you have in-house, or do you start exploring other options for a project like this? I mean, I'm just thinking, like, these are very new benefits for the marketplace. Do you need new raw materials?
Yeah, normally we always need, if we are looking to new claims, normally what we do is we work closely with some of the most innovative suppliers that we have in the fields. And we like to work with suppliers that not only tells us this is the ingredient that you can use to claim anti-pollution, but they explain what is the mechanism of action. Because I can have a raw material with an anti-pollution claim that, as I referred, is used to make sure that we clean all the particle matters that are in your hair and scalp. And this is appropriate for a shampoo, but it's not so appropriate for a living product. Because if you don't go deeper, if you don't understand their biology, and if you don't understand the mechanism of action, how can you select properly the raw material that you need to use in each one of these products of the collection? And we like, of course, always to look into the scientific data that they provide us, explaining the mechanism of action, the level of efficacy, because sometimes when we look to the data, they don't look that effective as they are promoted. And this is the starting point also for what we call the phase of the paper formula. That is when we start to build the concept of the product. So we start looking, is like our recipe. Okay, so we want to put an ingredient or a raw material that avoids adherence and cleanses here in this hair shampoo, but we also want to use mild surfactants because the hair may be already damaged and we don't want to worsen that condition. Then in a conditioner, so this is anti-pollution. So sometimes we also use our hero raw materials that we use all the time, because if you really need and you want a good conditioner and we already have a very good in-house that is sustainable, we may use already other raw materials that we are very familiar, but this is the way we start building the collection all together. Okay, with the team, with the marketing. Sometimes we of course, over the development process, we exchange ideas. Also because it's important, we want to be able to have our products in all people's homes, how to communicate the benefits, because otherwise the final consumer will not be able to understand the benefit of buying these products. So that's why Paola was saying this is a very interactive process until we have the product developed with the safety demonstrated, claim substantiation done, stability proven, and then we are able to offer them to our customers. So
yeah, excellent. And Paola mentioned the importance of validation, throughout the development process and certainly at the end. Claudia, I'm hoping we can think a little bit about testing. In skincare, we know there is standardized testing for UV protection or sun care products, but how are you testing for sun care and pollution benefits in hair care? What are you looking at?
Yeah, so there are different types of tests. Some tests that you normally use can also be used to evaluate damage in hair, like combing, how easy it is to comb or shine. But normally, when you already see this on hair, the damage is already very high. Okay, so and we normally want to see the damage and the prevention early on. So we really evaluate if our raw materials, our products will be able to prevent or help to reduce the damage of pollution or UV filters. And in this case, we need more sophisticated equipment. So we can use a microscope to see how damaged is the hair, or if we have particle matters adhere there, or we can use a differential scanning calorimetry, that is a thermal technique to evaluate how damaged are the proteins or not. Or you can do analysis of the lipid content of the hair strands to evaluate if also in an earlier stage the damage induced, or how healthy is the hair. But it's quite difficult because when you don't have standardized methods, it's difficult to compare the benchmarks and the results that you are seeing. Even in the raw materials, when we have raw materials and we have this nice state of the tests proving the efficacy, all of them use different tests. So it's really important that in this case, we really need to test the final product in a certified lab to make sure that in the final product, we have a benefit that the final consumer will perceive. Because if they don't perceive it, and if it takes a long time for them to perceive, they will not use it because they want products with a faster action. So that's why the testing is important. And in this case, I think something that needs to be done is the development of tests, standardized tests, so everyone is working using the same validated test that everyone agrees is showing relevant results, because we may test in many different ways, but the test must be predictive of what will happen in reality. Otherwise, it will not help you. It will not help you to get what you want. That is a very effective product in the market. Okay.
I'm curious, are you, go ahead, Paola.
No, we work also in collaboration with external partner in proper creating protocols to support then the external test substantiation. So it's we're doing a study internally, but then we collaborate also externally in developing proper protocol ad hoc on our needs.
No, this makes sense. And I was going to ask, are you seeing, Claudia, maybe some of the ingredient suppliers have some sort of consistency with testing, or is there testing that you've performed on your products that makes you think, oh, this would be good, once we standardize a test for hair care? Is there anything you would sort of recommend at this point in terms of testing?
I think this has everything to do with the selection of the suppliers that we use. Of course, we have several because we work across categories, so we need a big variety of raw materials to be able to create every single week completely new products, new textures. But only the best ones that we trust, and we know that they have their own labs. Very often they have their own labs, they test them. We visit their labs, they visit us, they support us. So this is the way we like to work with suppliers, and this is the way we are working with the ones that we work more, because it's also building a relationship based on trust, and also recognizing the scientific know-how of the other part, and we are working with the very good ones. So all the data they provide us, it's reliable for sure, and we trust that it was done in a good lab by the best scientists. So, and this is very important.
No, of course, it's always very important to be working with trusted partners. That sounds right. And Claudia, you mentioned earlier, it's quite obvious that a consumer's hair will be exposed to multiple stressors, right? Sun, pollution, maybe heat styling, something else. Can you say just a little bit more about how you account for that in the development of new products?
It's a very interesting question, but it's quite complicated in the sense that it depends a lot where people live and their lifestyle.
Sure.
Because if you live in a city, you will be exposed to certain types of contaminants that you are not so exposed when you are in the countryside. But maybe in the countryside you spend more time outside under the UV lights, than on a city with the lifestyle of a city.
Mm-hmm.
On top of that, you need to count on the specific properties of the hair that also influence how resistant it is to this damage. If you have blonde hair with a low melanin amount, you are much more prone to have damage, because melanin also, like in the skin, helps to counterbalance and the bad effects of the UV radiation. Also, if you bleach your hair, also it is already very damaged. So it's much easier for the pollution to have the bad effect and enter their shaft and have the oxidative effects and the carbonylation of proteins that they may have. So it's in here, it's really important, because there is not one measurement or one product that fits all, that the person that is buying has some level of education, and together with a good communication in the label of the product. Because if the hair is already bleached with split ends, with low melanin, maybe they need a higher amount of nutrients to recover the hair than so much antioxidants to prevent the damage.
Yeah.
The marketing has a very important role. The marketing, our marketing, that speaks directly with our customers, because we are in a business-to-business model, what they need to communicate and the real benefits. So education of the final consumer is also very important for them to be able to select the ones that better fits their needs, of course.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. Can you comment on silicones? I know they've been a key ingredient in hair care. Are you working with these? Did you include them in any of the new formulations? Do you have any quick comments for us?
So we, as a company, we try to reduce as much as we can the use of silicones. It's a very controversial raw material. They are not all the same.
Yeah.
So if one thing is, if you are discussing silicones that are not soluble, and when applied on the hair strands, it's very difficult to remove them. You need to use really harsh shampoos, and then they build up, so they weigh down on your hair. They prevent the entrance of other nutrients, so the hair with the time becomes very dry and brittle. But on the other hand, now you have other versions that are soluble, so they don't build up or less, and they are much easier to remove. So depends a lot exactly what is what kind of silicones you select, and for each claims. For example,
Sure.
they are amazing anti-freeze products, okay? But ideally, for texturized hair like mine, they give me an immediate amazed look, anti-freeze, very well defined. Over time, yes, I understand I need to wash my hair more times, and then this will cause the dryness of the hair. But when there is a very severe damage, and it's good to have this layer on top of your hair, because you don't have your cuticle in the best condition. In some situations, you can use the soluble one. So it's always a balance.
Yeah.
It's always a balance of cost benefit, like in all raw materials. If the benefits it's bringing to solve a problem are higher than some of the minor disadvantages that all raw materials may have.
Yeah, yeah. No, thank you for that. And it's helpful to hear your perspective. As you said, there's a lot of conversation around silicones. Before we finish here, I'm just curious if you'll be developing more hair care products with UV and pollution benefits, or are you moving on now to the next trend? And if you are, will you tell us what it is?
It's a part of our next roadmap, and we are. I don't want to spoil too much, but definitely it's a constant topic for us. For sure, we are developing a product, and of course, with research and science behind, but especially that are, let me say, promoted more long-term benefit and targeting individual hair type. So that's is the first step that we did was let me say a more wider collection, and then it's the time now to go down the hair type, hairstyle, and consumer routine. So for us, hair plus benefit, it's always the combination, and especially on the part of pollution and sun damage, because consequentially there is also benefit on keeping the hair color, avoid the hair color fading, and the healthiness of the hair, it's a constant.
Yes, yes, no, that makes good sense. Thank you for sharing that. Well, Claudia, Paola, you're both so knowledgeable. This was very fun. I thank you for joining me today on the CosmoFactory podcast.
It was a pleasure to be here, really.
See you. Let's hope that we will meet again soon.
Thank you so much for listening. If you find the CosmoFactory podcast useful, please take a moment to leave us a 5-star review and share your thoughts so even more cosmetic industry professionals can discover the CosmoFactory. I'm Deanna Utrusky. Please join me again next Tuesday for a new episode of the CosmoFactory podcast.